Now another thing that circles can be brilliant for are creating little danglers in your pop-out cards. And it's a lovely easy project, this one. It's just learning how to use, we can use the circle to cut, you've got the concentric circle so we can have the smaller one as the dangler, we can use the scallop as the decorative edge. So let me walk you through exactly how we go about doing this, right? Now the first thing you need to do is create the base pop-out card. So to do that, you're going to use 2 of your cards from your kit. So 2 of the 5x7s. But what I need you to do on one of them, can you see I've already done it? So this is the second 5x7. So there's my score line at the centre. And part way along, and it doesn't matter as long as it's more than halfway, part way along, either at the halfway point or further in, you need to put a score line, and it needs to be in exactly the same place on both sides. So you see we can fold this back. And then if you see how this fits inside the card when the whole thing sticks together, if I show you it from the front, it makes total sense. You can see the front bits stick down and then you've got the dangling part in the centre. So that's all you need to do, is you need to get your second card and put a score line more than halfway from the open edge. All right? So if I show you now how we do the die cutting bit, what we're going to do is we're going to die cut, and I'm going to, let's have a look, we will use the large circle. Yep, so we're going to die cut the large circle here, and then we're going to do the outline with the scallop. And you see? So we're going to have that lovely scallop to go around the edge. So we don't need the scallop to die cut, but we're going to use the large circle. And I'm going to use a little bit of low tack tape. Very important that you make sure the circle is exactly in the middle, and we're going to hold this in place. Now, if you're popping this through the large Gemini, this will fit through your large Gemini, no problem. If you're popping it through your small Gemini, because we're working on the 5x7 card, our Gemini is only 6 inches wide, but there's always a way around, okay? So I'm going to show you that. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to fold the card over like this, so that we're still cutting through the base. But bear in mind, I've now just added more or less 2 extra shims of card to what we need. So I'm going to try without using the magnetic shim. Now, because I'm missing the magnetic, I am going to pop the metal in for a little bit of extra push. So I'm going to cut into the metal. So we're adding the metal on there. Then I'm going to put my clear plastic plate on the top here. Then I'm going to use my top plate. So we'll see if that's enough pressure without the magnetic to cut through. Because what we don't want to do, if you put too much pressure through, we're going to leave indentations on the other pieces of card. So we want enough pressure to cut, but not too much pressure that it's going to cause a problem. So let's lift this up here and see if that's cut. Yep, you can see that is cut through there beautifully. And it's left a little bit of an indentation, but nothing that's insurmountable by the time we cover this over. All right? So if I lift this off, that becomes a useful matting and layer potentially for another project. So we're going to keep that handy. So there's our base card. That's going to go inside the other piece. Now, while I'm on doing my die cutting, let's cut the other pieces. So I'm going to use a piece of card. Now, we always make the cardstock bigger than you need. We make the biggest piece that we can to fit in the box. So it's more than what's going to fit through your project. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the die cut. And if you ever want to do positioning with your dies like this is a great way to do it. You'll see the instruction manual will have you do this. It will have you build up your layers on your project like this. It will have you position the dies on here, and the magnetic holds them in place, you see. So I can move this around now and my dies won't slip off. The clear plate goes underneath your magnetic. It's very important that, because what you don't want to do, you need to make sure you're cutting into the top plate, not cutting through here into the clear plate. The clear plate is not made as a cutting plate, it's made as a shim. So we're going to position our 2 dies like this, pop our cardstock over. If you want, you can always hold your cardstock in place so it doesn't move as we're going through the machine. And then we pop the top plate on. So if any of you have ever wondered why Sara doesn't cut according to the instructions in the manual, I always work back to front upside down so the camera can see exactly what I'm cutting. Whereas in this case, I need to use the magnetic shim to hold my dies in place. So you'll see why that's so important now. See, when I lift this off, I needed to hold them so that that would be a perfect exact outer circle. So there's my dies, all my die cuts ready. So now what we're going to do is just start and put that whole card together. So pop the apologise to one side there. You see, we've hardly used any of that cardstock. I do keep saying this, but you will have more than cardstock than what you need, okay? Now, to put the whole card together, what we're going to do is, first of all, I've used some of the beautiful papers that you get here. So I'm going to pop this one on the inside. Now, this is the best way if you're ever sticking paper inside a card like this. You're going to put double-sided tape on one side, and you're going to lay that in place. Then put double-sided tape on the other side and take the card over to meet it. So you're not going to stick it flat, you're going to stick it essentially, because the card's going to be open like this when it stands. So it's got to work flat, doesn't ever have to work totally open. Can you see it's not quite forcing itself open? It's going to hold your card at that position. Then we're going to pop tape down the two outer sides here. And we're going to position these in place yes. And if in doubt, you can always use a wet glue and manoeuvre this into place. Now you can see there I've got my shadows where we use them as extra shims just to get around the fact that I was using the Junior and not the Big Gemini. All we're going to do there is cover them over with some strips of card matted and layered here. As you can see there, it's just going to cover over a lot of the working there. And you'll always be able to see it if you go looking for it, but it's not going to be obvious here. Now, around the inside of my die cut piece here, I'm going to place that lovely circle that we die cut. And for this, I'm going to use a little bit of the wet glue, just to give me that little bit of time to manoeuvre it into place. And just using the wet glue just gives me that little bit of flexibility and time to get it perfect. Now, I've got a lot of the rest of the card prepared. I just want to walk you through what I've done here. So, I used the slightly smaller circle, so you can see it's the next size down, to die cut two pieces, and I've stuck them back to back with a little bit of string going up through the middle. And then I'm going to hold that in place inside the card. So what you'll find is, cut this string a little bit longer than you need, have it dangling down, and then you can get it into place just where you want it. So I can see I want it to come down a tiny little bit more, and I'm using that on the inside. So can you see this is where I'm sticking it, just on the inside part here. So we can get that into place there. And then what I always like to do, I'm just going to cut that down a little bit. So I hold it in place with one piece there, and then so that I know it won't move, I'm going to stick it in place with another piece. And I'm using the low-tack tape here just because it's what I've got to hand. Actually, what I want you to do is I want you to use the stickiest tape you've got. Yep, so something like a red liner tape or whatever would be wonderful. But you're going to stick that in place another time. So I'll show you it there with the glue so that you can see it, but you're going to do this essentially with other much stronger glue. This is just for the purposes of me showing you here, right? And that is how we're going to sort out our dangler. And then the extra piece that we don't need, you can just cut away. Now, just to finish that card off, what I've done is I've stamped a couple of the little butterflies that we've got from the set. So this is just from your stamp set here, and I'm just going to take these, bend them up, and then use that lovely 3D glue gel just to give them a bit of dimension. And with that glue gel, you do need to be leaving it a good, I would say 15 minutes to be touch dry, but then actually what you want is you want to leave it overnight to get the best finish on it. I'll just pop these into here. And then on the front of the project, all I've done is, if I show you the card, a little bit of matting and layering, and then you've got, we could pop a strip of the card across the front, and I will just hold this. I don't want to quite stick it in place while it's wet, but I can do enough to show you here. We're going to stick this across the front here, and then just use all of the bits and pieces that we've got to layer up. Now I do find when I do pop-out cards like this, you don't need to do an awful lot to the front, because really when it's displayed, people are going to display this open. So it's not worth putting too much effort into what's on the front of the card if actually everyone's always going to be looking at the inside. So you just need enough for it to get that wow when you first open it, but then not too much that it's taking away from anything that is going on the inside. So just a few little stamped pieces cut out here, and of course I think those butterflies are just adding a lovely finishing touch to everything when you just feed them up and then sit them on there. So there's the front of our card, but really what we're interested in is what's going on the inside.